Nice to meet you. Lamar, right?
Yes, sir. Well, I
Cool.
prefer Lamar, but my first name is Steven, so that's where the Stevens comes from. But I really don't go
Okay.
by. So.
I was gonna ask you because I Facebook had Lamar, this had Steven, and I was like trying to
It's my
figure.
middle name, so
Okay,
it makes it easier when you're a junior. So I just go by my middle name.
cool.
Definitely in the company too. So I tell the guys like that work with us, I just tell them to call me Lamar. Makes it easy, so we know who they're talking to.
Yeah, definitely cool. Well, hey man, I appreciate you joining the call and taking this interview with me. So I just want to kind of go through your business a little bit, learn about it, and just really see like why you do this. So just to start off, you and your father both own the business, right? Is it 50-50?
Not right now, but it's basically 50-50. We moved some operational around so that because I have better credit basically, but
Yep.
I have 85% right now. He has 15, but we're
Mhm.
it's like a 2-year agreement, then we'll revisit it, but it should be 50-50.
Cool. And I know you came to your father with the idea, right, to start the company?
Yes, sir. Yeah, yeah. So he was working with his dad. He always worked with his hands. He did a lot with like tree work and stuff like that. So I finished college and I was looking for more of an investment.
Yep.
And I kind of came to him with the idea that maybe we could do this just because we both knew a lot about it. So I
Mhm.
brought it to him for sure.
Cool. And I'm trying to read in the back, but I can't read it. What college you go to?
Oh yeah, I leave it up there sometimes. It's Sam Houston State in Texas. It's north of Houston. It's right outside of
Okay.
Houston. So yeah, yeah, yeah.
I actually have family in Kingwood. It's
Okay.
northeast of
Yeah,
Houston.
yeah. That's
So
northeast. Yep, yep.
uh,
Kingwood. I got a couple people that live out there too that I know. Interesting area.
so what did you major in?
I actually majored in computer science, so I'm a very well-rounded guy. So I think you're into business, correct? I
Yep.
think. Yeah. So I'm like I like business a lot. I always tell people it's weird. So I was one of those people that finished college and I didn't know I even liked business until after college. I took a job that the guy had me in a hybrid role. I was kind of helping him out with the business and I was doing IT and I was
Mhm.
like, oh, I love this. I started going to like network events and trying to figure out marketing and stuff like that. But so I have a computer science background and I'm an IT manager, but I was looking to I really like business. So
Okay. So you found while working that IT hybrid IT job that you like business. So why did you end up leaving to start your own? Like why didn't you just stay and maybe move up in that company?
it was just a small company. That's
Okay.
what I'll say there. It's just a small. I helped them grow a little bit, and it was more of a learning experience there. So and literally that's the job I started this company with. So
Yep.
when I was there and I figured that all out, I talked to my dad at the time. And I was like, hey, let's do it ourselves. Let's start a business,
Mhm.
and I'll help him out. So I do a lot of the back end stuff. So.
So why lawn care?
Oh, cause we grew up in it. Just my grandfather's doing it, so he's been doing it since late '80s. I don't know the exact year. I just know
Yep.
it's since the '80s. The funny story they tell people with me is I used to kick a blower around when I was like 7, so I used to go out
Wow.
there and tell the guys what to do. Apparently, so stuff like that. But something we're familiar with, something
Yeah.
we grew up with, something we feel like. I'm gonna be honest with you, full transparency. We thought we knew a lot about it, but as you know doing the work and the business are two totally different things. So when we went into it like, hey, we've done lawn care before, so it can't be that
Yeah.
hard.
And
Yeah.
your father, Steven, so he was working for your your grandfather's company at the
Yes.
time, right?
Right, 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 right,
Okay.
right.
So I heard he mentioned he was driving like 600 miles. What do you mean by that? I was a little
Oh, a
confused on
week,
that.
a week, a week,
A
a week.
week. So
Yes.
what was the service area looking like on that?
No, no, he was driving into so him and my mom moved away from the area where my grandfather was. So he had to drive like hour and 20 minutes every day there and back. So he did that
Wow.
for a while. Yeah. So he would drive in. He had to get up, 4 o'clock
Yeah.
just to try to beat traffic and get into work and then work all day, then come back. So it was tough for him for a couple years.
Yeah, I was gonna. Why did he stick with it for years if that was the commute? Like I love my father, but I don't know. I don't know if I do that for him.
I think he would be better to answer that. I honestly think it was a lack of confidence, me knowing my dad. I don't know, and loyal to it's like so he's always worked outside.
Yep.
So he's working with his dad and Uh I think he didn't want to leave that to go work for another guy, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Like you say, you
Mhm.
you, you love your dad, but it's like it'd have been weird for him because he had been his foreman for like 5 years. So it's like, okay, I'm gonna leave there, but I'm gonna go to another, like a competitor in a sense, right outside his zone. But I think he wasn't comfortable with it.
I get you. Yeah. And
Yeah.
so how did how did your grandfather feel about that? Did that cause tension when you guys?
So we never got an answer on that. We actually worried think about that to this day. We kind of
Yeah.
just go to Christmas and
Hmm.
everything like that. So the good thing is we don't overlap. So
Yep.
I just told you the distance. So we don't overlap. I think if we overlapped, it'd have been a different story. But I think he
Yeah.
understood that I mean, we're probably 30 miles at least north of his like closest client. So
Yep.
but we never got an answer to that. I ask him all the time. He doesn't give me much. My dad, I'm like, hey, your dad ever like say anything about that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. So I saw you got a cut. You have 5 employees, right? Or is that
Yeah.
including you guys?
No. So it's seven of us total, but it's five employees. So my sister helps with the phones and the admin.
Hmm.
So I'm kind of on that side with her. And then we got four guys in the field with my dad. So we got two foremen and then two helpers. So two
Gotcha.
two-man crews.
And how do you usually break it up? Like, is one mowing? Is one doing projects, tree work? What do you guys mainly do?
No, we mostly maintenance. We do mowing, edging, we whack and blowing. That's like 90%.
Yep.
So we do recently we did a mulch job. I'll probably be posting that soon. But we did a mulch. So we do like softscapes is what I call it. Some people don't get that, but I say it's not a digging or tree work. So we do like mulch and throw some sod down,
Yep.
some light work. So, but mostly those two guys, the two crews are doing maintenance. So
Gotcha. Cool. And
yeah.
then, so you guys, how did it start? Was it just you two at first, and then you slowly got workers? Like, what did that progression
So
look like?
we're a little different from most people. Like really different to be honest with you. So it was weird because like I'm doing this, but I've been debating similar, like I told you, to kind of
Hmm.
start putting my own spin on things because most of the guys out there, like you got your Mike Andes, you got was it Khalifa's, you got
Keith
Blaze Grass.
Keflas. Yep.
Yeah. You got a lot of these guys out there that has it, but we have a unique start. So I've been remote the whole time. It throws people off because I live in Houston. My dad is in the field. So when we started, he was the guy. So
Yeah.
how we actually did it for my grandfather, I'll tell you exactly how it went. This was 2017. February, I think we did all the paperwork with the state.
Hmm.
And then I think March we started marketing. At that time, Google was way easier. I think it was like Google AdWords. It was very simple to set up.
Yep.
We started with their like credit. They give you like $300 credit. So we started that in like March. So we started getting our first client. So what we did was on the weekends he would work. So on Saturdays we started filling his Saturday up.
Hmm.
So I think we got like maybe 10 customers. Then he did like a half a day Sunday. So this is really tough on him. So he's driving those hours all week. Saturday comes, he's knocking out 10 of his customers and
Hmm.
our customers. And then he on Saturday or Sunday, he would do another half day. So we did that for maybe 2 months
Yep.
until those 2 days were full. And then he asked his dad, could we get Fridays? So once we got Friday full, he went ahead and said he was going to do that full time. So it took us about I would say 2.5, 3 months before he quit working with his dad. So
Yep.
he got on his own. So that's kind of how we actually started. And we actually had a really good year that year, to be
Hmm.
honest with you. But uh, like almost everybody, we didn't know how to rate or price.
Yep.
And then a lot of these guys just fell off. I've seen that in the group that we're in. I see some of the guys. I feel bad for them. I try to give them some advice, but we were too cheap and we attracted the wrong base. So when that fall hit, oh man, we lost, I think 90% of our customers. My dad actually Ubered. He Ubered Eat that summer. I mean that
Wow.
winter. That winter. It was that was our first year in business. So we started that way, went full time, and then he had the Uber Eats the off
Yeah.
season. Yeah.
So that's a lot to go through.
Yeah.
Why didn't you guys quit?
All right. So I was like, that was a
Because
tough thing,
I
right?
might have quit there. I might have been like, fuck
So
it.
yeah, so we had I want to say maybe he was doing about 55. So well, let me deconstruct that a little bit. So when
Yeah.
people ask like why, so the reason it works, I mean, you're kind of lit in business, you've been reading up on it and studying
Yeah.
it. So the reason it works for us is because I do the website, I do the phones, I do the emails, I text the customers, I do a lot of that for him. So he just has to go out there and cut the grass.
Hmm.
So it does help in the sense of we're kind of splitting the duties
Yep.
versus him trying to service the customers. You know how like some of these guys talk about how hard it is doing estimates, talking to the client, getting a headset, being equipment's running in the background, you know.
Right.
So I was able to, so I think that does help. That ties into why we didn't quit because it's both of
Yep.
us, right? So I'm like, okay, we got a couple customers. We're gonna get back at it, right?
Hmm.
So luckily we didn't. I don't know. I mean, we're not quitters. I will say that. My dad is a he's we don't quit. That's why I say he was
Yeah.
driving like that. So we weren't thinking quit the first year.
Yep.
We're like, okay, we got to fix this thing going into
Yep.
2018. So I switched to an LLC and we made some adjustments. But yeah, it was an interesting off season. It was
Cool.
more of a learning experience. It was like,
Okay.
wow, what did we do wrong or right? I guess, or try to figure that out.
And you were still remote this whole year,
Yeah, I
right?
was remote this whole time. So
Yep.
I like what I do is help. The best way I explain to people is I try to do the business strategy.
Hmm.
So we collaborate like how me and you're talking right now. I come to him. The good thing for me, even though I'm remote, I fully understand. Like I said, I worked with him and I've worked with him and my grandfather. So
Yeah.
I understand what is needed. And my dad's really efficient, bro.
Okay.
He used to do 15 a day by himself. So
Wow.
yeah, he could do 75. I think the peak he hit before we got help was 78 or something like that. That he was
Wow.
doing, Monday through
Yeah.
Friday by himself. So we can generate a lot of production. And then basically my job is just keep that going and
Hmm.
try to figure out the profitability and stuff.
And were you still working your other job at the time while this
Yeah,
was
so the
going?
first 2 years, well, I actually still work, so this is like
Hmm.
a side one for me. But my first 2 years, um, I was like pretty much fully relying on my full time job. So I will tell you this because you said why we didn't quit. So for me, I didn't need the money. So when we
Yep.
went down, I was able. That's why I said our start is more unique than most people. So our start, I was able to let him get most of the proceeds, So even if it did go down, it's like, hey, you go ahead and get paid. I got a check coming in anyway, so it's not a big deal. So he's able to not worry about his paycheck,
Yep.
even if the business isn't doing well those first 2 years.
Yeah. So in a way, part of it too was like helping take care of your father at the same time
Right,
because
right.
you're like, I'm covered, but like I want to make
I'm
sure he's
covered.
covered.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm covered. There's no reason for me to try to push the envelope and get a couple $100. I was like, hey man, like you go ahead and take care of whatever you need to take care of. So that's part of the reason why we didn't quit either, because we was definitely doing some teamwork there. But it was a lot of learning. It's weird because I think some people can do that. You ever like you study business. I tell people like mine is different, but some people there might be better at a role like mine versus being outside and cutting grass. I could. I'm just in a different state. But
Yeah.
some people aren't built like that. So they're like, oh, I could do that.
Yep.
You got to learn the industry, but you could kind of do a hybrid setup like I did.
And so what changes were made year two?
Okay, so year two, we had a okay, so this is a we're gonna get there, but we had to evolve every year.
Hmm.
So the second year we did a single page like a agreement, but it wasn't like a binding agreement or
Hmm.
anything. So, but what we did and we found, for us, what state are you in again?
Massachusetts.
Okay, right, you way up north. So
Yeah.
in Florida, they don't do a lot of agreements. I don't know if you guys
Hmm.
do it either, but a lot of people don't do agreements. So we had more of it was a sign up really, but we noticed that if we had a piece of paper, it weeded out a lot of guys. So people don't want to sign anything, and that let us
Is
know
this
that
employees or customers?
customers,
Okay.
customers. So the second year we had a single page sign up. So we tried to vet a little better on the customers. Um, I think that's important. I think in the group I put in there, one, I think knowing your numbers is really, really important. And then second, I think trying to figure out how to vet customers is super important as well.
Hmm.
So our second year, we did a lot better at picking better customers. We have more year-round customers or customers willing to pay a little bit more money.
Yep.
And unfortunately, I mean, we're talking business. We realized that a certain class of people, I guess, I'm not going to say poor, but just a certain class that if they don't have enough discretionary income,
Hmm.
basically, because they're going to penny pinch. So as soon as the season ends, they just fall off the face of the earth,
Yep.
versus you probably up north, you guys probably have like, you got snow, you got cleanups, it's other things to get done, leaves. Some people got lights and things like that. So our second year, we were trying to lean into that. It was a focus on like weeding out customers and figuring out our rates.
Yeah. Okay. And so that year, it was more of just figuring out the numbers, and you'd say, was that really what year two was all about?
Right.
Okay, gotcha. And it was still, was it your father? Did you have a helper at this time, or were you just building it
No,
with
he was
customers?
he was pretty much solo. So
Hmm.
18 and 19, because we started in 2017. So
Okay.
2018 and 2019, we had some part timers that came in the summer, but they'll work like a day or two. But it wasn't like we didn't have a full time help. No, it
Yep.
was just a couple guys that would fill in here and there. It was a lot of different guys. So
Yeah. So how? So you said your father, he's in Houston, run the business. Sorry, he's in Florida, run the business. You're in Houston. So estimates and whatnot. Obviously, an over the phone one like a mowing, you can just send it. How are you guys doing? Like, hey, mulch beds and bigger projects. How are you estimating those?
so we perfected that in the last 2 years, but because it's always been a little messy. So I'm a little better with the technology than he is.
Hmm.
So what he I'm actually trying to train someone to do what I'm answering for you right now. So it's actually difficult. But since I've been out there and I understand the work, it's really easy for me and my dad to talk. So like literally someone can go see, say you're home, and then you talk to me, you think I was there. I've actually had customers tell me that.
Yeah.
So my dad, he'll do the measurements of the flower bed, he'll take photos of it. I
Hmm.
review the photos, I look at the measurements, I get the rates, the price, I know how long it'll take. I call him, I'm like, hey, we're gonna do this, and I'll have the pictures in front of me. So I was like, around the right side of your house. And I'll just have it. They were like, wait, did you come out? I said, no, my
Yeah.
dad come out. And they're like, wow, like you're able to just talk. So I actually do the estimates for like the odd jobs, but I
Yeah.
can communicate that to the customers. But so what we're done recently is we figured out a rate every 100 square feet of mulch or every 100 square feet of rocks or sod. We figured out all our rates, so we standardized it. So now when he does the measurements, he already know what it should be, and we're
Okay.
able to get that rate out there. But before it was just me being able to look at it and
Yeah.
call and send an email.
Okay. And then you said you found that people don't really like to sign contracts. So was a lot of this over the phone, the estimating? Like, were you telling them the price and then getting them to be there?
So for we did move to agreements, by the way, eventually.
Hmm.
But we were just saying that most people didn't want to do it. But we would tell them over the phone, and then I would send an email.
Hmm.
Or Yardbook recently had that one button quote where we are able to send it over to them via email. So like then it was more of a paper that we wrote
Yep.
or got them signed up with their card
Yeah.
and stuff like that. Now we do have like a whole agreement set up and everything.
Hmm.
So
And your estimates were usually doing like a seasonal contract, or were you doing, hey, this is a price per visit. We'll go to
so
this time.
we I actually talked to Mike last year. I did one of his little consulting calls. But we've always tried to do a seasonal deal. That's what we've always done. So the thing being in Florida, which may be different for your area, is we do have a longer season.
Yep.
So more people, you can get 6 months, 7 months, 8 months of a mowing pretty regularly.
Hmm.
So we would give them a rate for that. So let's say we start in April. From April to October, it's $100 a month or something like that. So that's kind of what we would come up to. We preferred year-round customers, but
Hmm.
at first, it's just taking whatever you can get, right? So if they want
Yeah.
to do per cut, if they want to do seasonal, if they want to do year round.
And on those year rounds, so are you still mowing in those winter months, or are you doing more property cleanup?
Um, when again being in Florida, we mow year round. So what
Okay.
happens though, and depending on where in Florida you are,
Yeah.
sometimes it's a little sandy. So we have a package now where you get one service in December and January. So you'll come out one time for a mow. But we just count up the services. Let's say you get 30 mows in a year.
Mhm.
You'll have weekly June through October. You have two services in November, one in December, one in January, then two in February through May. That's kind of how we break it down to those customers.
Mhm.
We tally up that per cut rate, and then we give them a flat bill across the table. And a lot of people like that because it makes it a little easier than the number I give people is say 50, right? 50
Yep.
is a fair cut. If you do four cuts in July, that's $200.
Yep.
But if you spread it out throughout the year, it may come down to say 130. So when I break it down to customers like that, they're like, well, I'm gonna pay $200 a month for 6 months, or I can have somebody come all year for 130.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
that's kind of how we pitch it.
Cool. And then, so that's 2017 through 2019.
Right.
Going into 2020, I know you mentioned that you kind of tapped out a bit. You're
Yeah,
kind of
yeah, yeah. On the video.
what
Yeah, yeah.
what happened there?
I was just discouraged. So just like you were saying, so I felt, even though I'm way leagues beyond where I was at that time now, but in the beginning of 2020, I thought we had figured it out. I was like, okay, man, this is going to be a good year. Aside from the world thing, like I personally, I just told you the years, right? So you start 2017, 2018, we were learning a lot. 2019, we had signed a lot of people up. We had got a couple of commercial accounts, like some plazas, like that was in 2019. So going into 2020, I'm like, oh man, this is going to be a great year. Like we're doing phenomenal. And yeah, so then when COVID hit, it was bad, for everybody. And I tell everybody it was bad. And for me to see the amount of customers that dropped and the revenue drop, and then going back down to, say it was pretty much like 2017 all over again. And I was like, oh my God, this is wild. so so I think around June, it was so bad. Like a lot of people don't know. Like my dad had to call me because again, I told you we do two sides of a coin. I had checked out. I was checked out. He would have to call me like, "Hey, did you invoice these guys?" I'm like, "No." He's like, I was really. I have to tell people because he knew I was like, for what? That's basically my mentality was like, for what? Like, it doesn't matter. I was completely checked out. So he would call me like, can you send the invoices? Call me. Can you send the estimates? Call me. Like, you didn't do the route. So he, for about 3 or 4 months, that's why I said we don't have a lot of quit. I have to give him credit for that because
Yeah.
he tries to give me a lot of credit because he gets frustrated. But I'm like, those 3 to 6 months in 2020, he was continually, even though he didn't do it, he made sure he called me and just like check in and just like, hey man, we just got to do it. We got to get through this year. And I'm like, all right, man. But yeah, it was tough. I don't know what do you have going on? Were you working at that time, or how was that for you, the 2020?
We started our company in 2020.
Okay.
COVID's why.
COVID's why, right? Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I'd probably be sitting in a suit right now if I didn't. COVID never hit.
So what was your thing? Your guys laid off, I guess, I'm assuming.
Hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, I had so I went to college. I was always a very studious guy. Read a lot of books growing up. That was kind of my hobby. And went to college, studied business. I used to sit in the back of the class when I was like 13 through high school, and I'd be in middle school though reading business books and finance books because I found them fascinating.
Right,
So
right.
I would be reading One to Zero. I would be I would be reading How to Win Friends and Influence People.
Okay.
13-year-old me. Uh, so I had a lot of prior business knowledge. So when I got to college, it was my first year of college was probably the easiest year of schooling I've ever had in my life. And it was just because obviously it's a lot of prereqs, a lot of
Right,
easier
right, right.
classes. So I was like, all right. I was getting a little worried at that time though, because I was like, that was a little too easy. To be honest, I was like, come on, I just paid 20 grand for this, like,
Right, 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 right.
and I was paying my way through college. My parents helped me my first year because they started a college fund when my brother was born. He's 2 years older. They would put a grand in it every year. It was supposed to go to both of us. So by the time I hit college, there was 20 grand. It was supposed to go 10 to him, 10 to him, which nowadays gets you half a semester.
Right, yeah, it's not game.
My brother he became an electrician and joined the union, so he didn't
Okay.
need the money. So they said, you can have the 20 because I was going to college. So that paid for my first year. And I was like, great. Thanks so much. I don't think that was worth it though. But I was like, I'll stick it out. I'll do another year, show up year two to college. And I'm like, all right, we're going to start doing real business courses now. And I'm going to learn some new stuff. And it could have just been the school I went to, but the stuff I was learning just felt so elementary. And
Really?
it's
Okay.
it's not that it wasn't difficult, it's just everything I was learning was stuff that I had read in the last
Okay.
200 books. So at this point, it just felt like common sense. I'm like, yeah, I understand that communication is key in a business, and they make you write a paper on like why communication's key, and then delegation and an org chart and setting goals and setting a mission
Right, right,
statement. I'm like, I've read this like 50 times already.
right.
So after year two, got a little disillusioned. Well, I only did one semester because at this point I'm paying my way through college, and I'm like, I'm not spending another 10 grand next semester. Went home, did community college, and I was just doing online accelerated courses. Did that for a semester, took even less classes the next semester. COVID hit.
Mm.
And at this point, I was feeling a bit lost because, my whole life I had dreamed that I was going to go into business, and I thought I was going to go work in some big corporation, some finance company, just something like that. And at this point, I'm like, I don't want to do that anymore. Like, I don't want to finish college. I'd rather start my own business, but I don't know. So COVID hit, best thing ever for me because me and my buddy Scott, he had done landscaping his whole life. And I said, hey, let's make some cash. So we started doing it for Nate. We print out a bunch of flyers, cut them out
Yeah.
by hand, and put them in a bunch of mailboxes. And we started doing it. And, COVID took a while. It was a couple months. So I wanted to make more money. So I said, hey, I'll YouTube it, look up, like, what can we do here? And for me, I went through a lot of YouTubers, found a lot. The thing is, all great guys, but I'm not really interested in the nuts and bolts, changing the blades, what mower using. I didn't care about
Right. You
all of
wanted the
that.
business knowledge.
Yeah, and I was basically at the point where I was like, all right, I guess I'll have to go back to college. And what helped me was I saw this one video on YouTube, and it was financial documents of a $1 million landscaping business revealed. And I click it, open it up. This guy's got his P&L, and
Uh,
he's going line by line by line. He's explaining what every line means. I'm like, this is what I was looking for. And that was the first ever Mike Andes video I saw. And to
I
this
was
day, I
like,
remember that.
he won me over the same way. We're locked in. I'm the
Yeah.
same way. It's too many. You said you went on YouTube. It's so much searching you can do, and it's like no one is giving out business knowledge.
Mhm.
No one. And I found Mike, and I was like, this guy is doing a whiteboard and literally like this is how you do this. And I'm like,
Yeah.
I love this guy. I've consumed so much of his stuff. I'm a little late. You got onto him early.
Mhm.
I think the last year and a half, I've watched a lot of Mike over the last year and a half. But I watched a lot of his old videos, from 3 or 4 years ago. So
Yeah. Yeah,
yeah.
I'm grateful. I would have quit if I didn't find that because
Oh
I,
yeah, it was
I was
tough.
at the point. I actually, funny story, right before that, I called, emailed, and texted 20 local landscaping companies just saying, hi, my name's Brandon. I just started like a little landscaping side gig during COVID. Can I like just hop on a call with you for 15 minutes or like just ask you some questions? Out of 20, 18 didn't answer. I got one answer, one call back from the office assistant, but she was like just a front level assistant. She was super sweet, but she could
Right.
not help me at all. And then I got one landscape business owner who did answer. Great guy. To this day, I really appreciate it. The only thing was I wrote out 2 pages of questions on a notebook, hopped on the call with this guy, was so excited. Call was 2 hours long. He didn't answer a single question. I remember halfway through, I just like shut the notebook. I
Right,
was
right, right, right.
great guy, but he just wanted to talk about, I don't know, he's complaining about customers. He's talking about
Right, right,
this.
right.
My favorite line's always, no, you got to do this. There's no money in that. You got to do
All right,
this.
right, right.
I love that line. I always hear that one. So great guy. Appreciate him taking the call. But that, after that, I was like, yeah, guess I got to go back to college.
I'm glad you found Mike, man. That helped me out recently too, because I did get past the 2020 slump, and then I
Mhm.
was in gear. I was in gear since then. So I really feel like I'll be honest with you, the last 3 years, just so you know, for our business, and I'll give you the numbers. I don't really care. I tell people that because I think it's great. So in 2021, we had to rebound. So we went
Mhm.
back. They have a solo in 2021 again, fully. So 2021, we made 80K.
Mhm.
Like whole year, we made 80K. In 2022, we made 217. And then last year we made a little over 400. So we're on a roll here. Hopefully this year we hit about 750, 800. I'm a based on how a lot of things are going and what we have in place, we're hoping next year we hit that, million mark. So just so you know, so I feel the last 3 years I've been catapulting since the whole reset with COVID.
Yeah. So what does the future look like for you? You said you want to go to 700, then about a million, but what is the 5 year? If everything went right and you did everything you had to do in 5 years, what would your company look like and where would you be?
If everything goes according to plan, I want to have probably 3 locations.
Hmm.
So what we're hoping to do, our biggest pain point now is trying to figure out how to systematize more for my dad and me, because I feel like we're the bottlenecks. Like some of the questions you asked me earlier about, estimates and invoice, like a lot of the business is up here, and I have to get that out. So recently I've been working with my little sister. She's our receptionist right now.
Hmm.
And I've been working with her as far as getting her up to speed. She has an acumen, loves business, very curious. She had a business plan when she was, 15, 16 about some things she wanted to do. She still has stuff she's curious about.
Hmm.
So we exchange ideas a lot. But right now I have her learning a lot. She has a lot of potential. So I'm getting a lot of those things on paper, but whether it's her or the next admin or sales guy, if we hire one, hopefully this year, I want to be able to get them up to speed on what I know. So I've been trying to document more, creating like video training series. I've been doing a lot of that. But the goal, to your point, would be all of this goes well, everything I have envisioned, the training is systematized, then I should be easily able to start a new location. And I believe I can get that profitable and a good number in like 2 years and then start another location, right? So we can see at least two more locations in the next 5 years. Aggressively, I would say 3 to 4. Because I plan on coming to Houston, so then I'll get
Okay.
into it. So we got one near him because he's north of Tampa. So we're gonna get one in Tampa, and then it's called Pinellas, so it's south of Tampa. Those 3 areas, and then I was gonna have one out here. So that's how you get to 4 total. So
So would you be quitting because you work a full-time job still,
yeah,
right?
yeah, I'll be at that point if I can get in 5 years if everything goes like you said, if it all works out, I won't need to work, so I'll be able to, and I think that'll help us too. But again, I'm weird, so I'm blessed and cursed with doing that. I almost quit to your point, but I feel like it's a challenge. You say you like books, the business should be a real business and it should be able to run without me. So me quitting and getting into the business is more or less making the business count on me more. So I was like, no, I'm gonna challenge myself to be able to remove myself.
Hmm.
So we grow it to a point and I can appoint someone to run it. I'll still be useful, but I need this thing to be able to grow and run without me. I could be the glue, I could be the secret sauce, but that's making a job for yourself, and Mike Andes is able to travel the world and he's still got his business running. Or a lot of people have stuff like that. So I listen. Another guy, I don't know if you probably study him if you're in the business. Alex Hermosi came onto the scene hot, and
Hmm.
that's been a guy that I've been studying a lot too over the last year. So
Hmm. So what's the trigger point for you where you're like, I'm quitting my job? What is the KPI? What is the number? What is the action? What is in the business where you're like, that's when I'm gonna quit and go full time?
I just got to replace my income, to be honest with you.
Hmm.
I get compensated quite well, so the business will be doing well. Let's put it that way. So I think if we can hit maybe a 2.5 mark, because I want the business to be healthy too. Like what I told you before when we were struggling, I had the luxury of being like, hey, I don't need to get paid. You guys can do whatever. You know what I mean? But if it's my full-time job, I'm like, oh, I need that.
Yeah.
If you got a family and stuff like that. So you got to be able to make sure. But for me, that's what I'll be looking at.
Cool. And then last question for you, just because I do have to wrap this up in 5 minutes. So you said that the plan really is you want to go to more locations, have an autonomous business, quit your job when it starts, replacing your income. Why do you want to do it? Like what you said, you got a pretty comfortable job right now. Obviously there is scale potential with this, but like beside the money, what is it? Why do you want to do this?
I can give you that. Yeah. Me personally, I like a challenge. For like this is honest as the answer I give. I'm not saying money, I'm not saying customers, I'm not saying my dad or anything like that. I like challenges. So for me, this is perfect. So like the question you asked earlier, like it's always something new. What you were saying, like, oh, you can't make money doing this. Okay, do contracts work? How can I make the contracts work? What's the ways I can make, marketing more effective? How can I get my guys trained up better? How can I expand to a new market? What's the profit margins on this? It's all a puzzle piece to me. So for me, I just love it. Like I love all of the figuring it out, and I plan on just soaring that way. So for me, I have that bit of a grit and curiosity and determination that challenge really excites me. So I'm always be locked in. It's just it kind of upsets my wife sometimes because she's like, man, you like when I get into a business mode, I am in there. I got notepads. I'm coming out. I love it. So like I told you before, I found out after college that I'm like, oh, I really like business. So that's why for me, it's just the passion for the business. And then, like I said, growing up in it, my dad's in there. I like lawn care. Even Mike Andy says it's a nice recurring. So it has a lot of pluses. But for me, my ultimate thing would be that, um, that puzzle piece.